Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cutting through the noise and demystifying the real 2026 costs of building an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, right here in Houston. I am so thrilled you're tuning in because, let's be honest, there is a ton of misinformation floating around out there. Right off the bat, I need you to shift your perspective. If you want this project to be a success, you absolutely have to treat it exactly like building a brand new home. Because, well, at the end of the day, that's literally what it is. So let's just rip the Band-Aid right off. $225,000. Yep, that is the current median cost for a typical 750 square foot detached ADU in Houston for 2026. Now, if you've been budgeting for this like it's just a fancy interior bathroom remodel, that number is definitely going to give you some sticker shock. But hang tight, we're going to break down exactly what that price tag actually means. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We're covering the real ADU price tag, the Houston cost premium, some real projects with real prices, those sneaky budget busters you need to watch out for, and finally, how to actually keep control of your project. All right, part one, the real ADU price tag. To truly wrap our heads around that massive $225,000 median figure, we need to look at how a standard budget is actually sliced up. Get this, a whopping 60% of your budget is eaten up by just the foundation structure and labor. Specifically, that's 35% for structure and foundation and another 25% for the labor alone. And remember, all of this money is spent before you even get to pick out a single quartz countertop, a window, or a paint color. It's the invisible bones of the house that really cost you the most. Now, obviously, your specific choices dictate where you fall on the pricing spectrum. You could go with a basic tier, which starts around $155,000 for a prefab unit with standard vinyl floors. Or you could scale all the way up to a premium, fully custom architectural build that easily blows past $450,000 with high-end appliances and gorgeous hardwood floors. Our median sweet spot, that mid-range, typically gives you solid stick-built construction, nice quartz countertops, and energy-efficient windows. It's also absolutely crucial to remember that building an ADU is a marathon, not a sprint. You should expect the whole process to take anywhere from 7 to 12 months. Your initial design phase eats up the first couple of months alone. Then you're slogging through permitting and actual construction, usually finally getting that coveted certificate of occupancy around month 12. So, patience is absolutely a mandatory line item here. Let's move on to part two, the Houston cost premium. So you might be wondering, why aren't we seeing the cheaper prices that folks get in other parts of Texas? Why is building an ADU in Houston so much more expensive? Well, we can peel this onion back in 3 steps. First off, Houston's highly competitive skilled labor rates are 10 to 20% higher than average. Second, our notoriously expansive clay soil and strict Gulf Coast wind load codes mean you have to pay for expensive engineered foundations and impact-rated windows. And third, if you're building in dense neighborhoods like the Heights, navigating the tricky logistics for heavy machinery adds another 5 to 15% right on top. All right, part 3, real projects, real prices. Let's take those regional factors and see how they impact actual bank accounts. When we compare 3 primary options, we see a really stark contrast. We're looking at a $115,000 garage conversion in the Heights, a $170,000 prefab unit over in Spring Branch, and a much steeper $245,000 ground-up detached new build down in West University Place. Now, the reason for that massive price gap is actually pretty simple. When you use an existing concrete slab and roof structure, like you do in a garage conversion, you instantly save tens of thousands of dollars. On the flip side, a completely custom new detached build requires a custom pier and beam foundation just to survive Houston's challenging soil. That foundation alone runs $15,000 to $30,000, and that's before you even factor in the extensive utility trenching. Which brings us to part 4, and you'll definitely want to pay attention here. Beware the budget busters. We absolutely have to talk about the most dangerous part of any construction project. The hidden site-specific costs that contractors almost never put on your initial quote. This is the ultimate budget buster. Get this, you will likely spend between $8,000 and $25,000 just on utility connection fees. That's just to trench water, sewer, and electrical lines out to your new ADU. Depending on how far your unit is from the public mains or the main house, this single line item can completely derail a project if you aren't ready for it. And honestly, utility connections are just the tip of the iceberg. You also have to independently budget for a whole list of mandatory items. We're talking $1,500 to $3,000 just for a soil report, up to $7,000 for structural engineering. Plus, you've got impact fees, construction insurance, landscaping to fix your completely torn up yard, and temporary site services. Heck, even something as simple as renting a portable toilet can cost you up to $1,200 every single month.
Okay, let's wrap things up with part 5, how to keep control.
With all of these expenses piling up, you really need a rock-solid defense strategy to stop your project from turning into an uncontrollable financial disaster. To protect yourself from classic pitfalls like suddenly discovering buried debris, changing your mind on the scope mid-build, or dealing with vague, incomplete plans, you absolutely must secure a detailed, fixed-price comprehensive quote from your contractor. I'm talking a real quote, not just a rough estimate. And on top of that, you must hold a strict minimum 10% cash contingency buffer for all those unexpected surprises. There's a quote from Renology that really hits the nail on the head here and perfectly summarizes our whole explainer. They say homeowners often frame it as a large room addition, when in reality, they are building a small, independent house. An ADU has its own foundation, its own underground infrastructure, and its own HVAC system. That is exactly why trying to use standard interior remodeling per square foot metrics will totally mislead you when planning this out. So, knowing the true 2026 costs, understanding those hidden regional fees specific to Houston, and realizing the absolute necessity of expert planning and contingencies, the only question left to ask yourself is this: are you truly prepared to undertake a brand new home build in your very own backyard? It's a huge undertaking, but if you treat it with the respect a new build deserves, the results can be incredibly rewarding. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy building!